Hi there. I just did a Temu flip through video, and I knew I had this journal that I wanted to show and do a video of, and so I figured I'm just going to knock it out now, so I don't have to do my whole setup again, but just excuse my mess. In the meantime, let's go through this journal. This was something that I just kind of wasn't planning on doing. It just happened because I wanted to use my scraps. I have so many, as a lot of us crafters end up with, and I thought, you know what, I have to use some. So one night I just took an Amazon brown envelope and just started covering it. And before I knew it, I was working on this constantly because it just was so much fun. So I started by doing the, both sides of it. And then I started adding pages and everything. And the top actually is able to be open like this. Okay, so if you wanted to put something in here and didn't mind it being folded, you could do so. All right. And I just had those to kind of help hold things in place. I have a little zipper pull here. You could, if you didn't want my stamped on muslin, I think this was coffee dyed, but it doesn't have a bad, like a strong scent to it. Because when I dye my fabric, I dye it way ahead of time because I do stamping of words. I have that on my Etsy shop. And some people don't like that strong scent. So my dyeing is done way, way ahead of time. And then it just sets to, to be aired out. But if you want the strong coffee scent, you're not going to get it really with mine. But I just do because I know some people are very sensitive to that. But anyway, so the zipper pull, it's on here good. So if you wanted to loop string through that hole and just wrap it around and use that as your tie, you could do so. But I had done it with this. I did not glue it to the binding of the book or anything in case you want to change it out or use this for something else. Okay, which it just says, I had stamped this and, it says, hope, dream, and believe. Yeah, dream, hope, believe. Okay. Now, what this kind of is not so much a journal. What I did with it was added acetate to it, some vellum, to be more of like an ephemera holder. Folio, I think some will call it. And what I've done is included mostly authentic vintage ephemera. So you're going to, here's some dictionary pages. These tags are not vintage, obviously, but I added those in also. And then there's a pocket here that has, I think these are German. Yeah, these are German vintage dictionary pages. I'll get it out right here. So I'm going to put these back up in here. And these are vintage tickets, and then I had stamped on them and distressed them. So just pop that in there. And these are some tags that I cut out and added some eyelash trim to. And then here I had cut out some butterflies. And I added all these little extras after I had filled it first with the vintage ephemera. And if you want to be surprised of what vintage ephemera is, you might not want to watch the whole video of the flip through. These are cigar bands. that was a period. This was a vintage, let's see, period absentees. This is from a school. And the, I guess it says grade, milk count, lunch count. Huh. That's cool. All right. I think I had it like that. And then we have some of these little cards that are vintage. I believe these are Greek. Vintage. These are the vintage tickets that I talked about, that I stamped there. This is just a cutout I did, distressed it and all that, and then I stamped, because on the back of mine I added it one. I'm getting out of frame, that's probably, but this one's easier to read. And you can add that to a journal that you make, or something that you make for someone. There it goes. Something like this. And all the pages are, you know, vintage papers and the scraps that I've done. I made these out of button cards, so I thought I'd include a couple for you, tags. Of course, you can add something to the back, but there is a little bit of vintage space. I honestly did not want to cover up the original printing. Some will say made in Italy, you know, made in Germany, and so I like to keep it that way. Here are some vintage cards of I Will Think of It Eventually, from a card game. That's right. I can just think. Oh, sorry. It's really bugging me. I'll think of it anyway. And then this is also the same game, but in a different version, a newer version. The printing's different, and this is a pretty card. The flower on it. And of course, I didn't put too many of one thing in, just because, in case, you know, people, I wanted a variety. We'll just leave it at that. So that's a vintage flashcard. And then we have a little vintage paper out of a little notebook. No, and this is like has an envelope so that you could see through. You know, you could see through what you put in there. Not sure what this is. Hang on. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, so this is crinkled tracing paper that you could use with something. These are war ration stamps. They're very, you know, small, and I did thin paper, so I didn't want them to get ruined, so I wrapped them in that. And so we have some vintage octagon coupons, octagon cleanser, and some of the green stamps. This is a vintage ticket. City of New York. It's 5 cents. Vintage playing card. This is a admit one. This is a vintage ticket. I made these. These are vintage. These were vintage tickets. And then I distressed and punched them, stamped the date 1882, put the little jump ring. Use it as a charm in your journals if you'd like. These pages were from an old book. I just made them very grungy. So I thought I'd add, I have a couple of those, thought I'd add some in. These are just vintage pages from a book with some images. We got a vintage check. from, where's the date? Number 1930. This is just something I threw in. It's cardstock. It's a little pocket. We got a little envelope here. This is not a vintage card, but it has, these are from a Hershey's assortment of cards, but this one has vintage images, so I like that. Threw that in there. And then I have, this is Braille paper that I distressed and added. So you'll see some neat things that, you know, I glued in here. Guess check. This is just some cardstock. This is a vintage sales type card for a company, I believe it made silverware. They handed those out to customers. This was a vintage page that I had glued in here to make a pocket. This is a vintage salesman type of receipt. It's interesting to, you know, read. Vintage checks, vintage, different vintage dictionary pages. They're a nice small size. I like using the small ones when I make tags sometimes. There's some vintage receipts, receipt paper. I have a vintage pharmacy label sticker. I just made this and popped it in there. I like this. This is it's from Germany. It says shillings and pence and pounds, and it's a thicker paper for being a receipt. You know, most things are like so thin. That's like really nice and thick. More different receipts, but vintage. Sometimes I have to lift up the, there you go. It makes it easier to just kind of, like that. And this is a vintage card. This actually, because I kept them, this actually came from where you have the vintage slides like this. It came with one of those in there, and it was to label, you know, which slide had what on it, obviously, and so I kept those. I like that. That's what that's from. These are actually vintage tabs. So I just added one to the page. Let's see. I like these vintage pages. They're from like a calculation type book. Love those. Oh, I added in a couple more of these cards because these are a brown. They're very rare. I've only ever been able to find one deck of these cards with the brown backing to them. And I sold out of them in my shop like right away because of the brown, and they're very, like I said, I haven't been able to find them anywhere. Pennsylvania Railroad receipt. And, yeah, it's easier if you just, like, kind of lift this up to slide things in. I have a folio that has the acetate on all the pages, and I have to do that. Someone else had made it for me, and I love it. But it's the acetate, you know, I just always have to lift it up a little. These are just vintage tickets. We got 25 cents, different colors, 15 cents, 10 cents. Some loose green stamps. Sorry, I needed a drink of water. Been doing a lot of talking here, doing my videos. Another playing card with some roses. Let's see, this looks Greek also. And these look Greek. I think I have some Russian ones left too. I don't know if there's any in here. That's a pretty wildflower type playing card. Let's see. These are little just tally cards, but I like the images on the card or image. And then these are just random pieces of papers out of little notebooks that I have that are vintage. This little piece of sari ribbon that I added there as a bow. All right. I just made this. It's a hidden paper clip that you could put in a journal. So I kind of am giving you like a pre-filled ephemera thing to place in your journals. Or just to keep because it has some neat vintage items in it. Little vintage graph paper, notebook paper. Oh, yeah, it's funny. I had that in my shop. It sold out quick. I think it's sold out. I'm not sure. So, some of the things sell out pretty quick. These were all from my personal stash that I had. These are some vintage receipts again, library cards. More receipts. This one's a salt thing. This is a ticket. It's like more like a cardstock paper. Erie Lackawanna Railroad. I have a lot of sorry if I'm getting out of frame. I have a lot of vintage railroad things I really like. More tickets and coupons. That's another vintage ticket. Vintage ticket. What's this? Chicago, Northwestern System, Railroad, obviously. These are vintage cards, cardstock. I think I do have some of these left in my shop. One or two, I think. This isn't vintage, but it's got like this. This is a vintage card. I just added some random things in here. This is vintage. This is actually vintage from vintage button card. And then there's a ticket in there. Oop. Dropping stuff. All right. Pop that back in there. And let's see, we've got, another one of these cards. I like this ship. This is a playing card. It's a ship. Oh, I like this little tag. Number tag that I made with a jump ring. This is a Valentine card. It's cute. It was vintage, but I thought that was cute. This flips up like that, I guess. Yeah. I don't know why. Yeah, it's like cut out, but that's cute. Sorry. Okay, a little bag here, and I just stuffed it with a bunch of vintage forms, tally cards, receipts, you know, fun stuff. So just a glassine brown bag, craft bag. This is a Knowles Dairy. Oh, okay, and I put another one of these in there. These are cool. I did some stamping in here. I have some, let me take this out. Piano paper, the old vintage player piano rolls. I added some of that in there. I think I have some more of that to put in my shop. I just haven't done it yet. It's just a brown craft envelope that flips out. These are small, even smaller dictionary pages, different receipt, ledger. These are vintage ledger papers. All right, I can't talk. Starting to not be able to speak well. So on this side, I had, oh, it's one of these gigantic, and this is a vintage one. It's not, years ago I bought a pack of like big cards from the dollar store, but these are actually vintage. They're from, oh, let's see, they are from this Texas Deck giant size playing cards. Here's some more of the number pages, like the oops, upside down, calculation type pages. So those are neat. Whoops, that doesn't go there. It goes up here. So those are in there, and up here was another glassine bag. So you could use this bag, and then it is stuffed with, I'm not sure. Okay, a little damask glassine bag. I actually have those in my shop. Oh, and then these are the onion paper railroad forms, and I think I still have more of those in my shop, so you would be able to see those better in my shop. And then these are just some small music pages. So, and I believe that's it. And then the two bulldog clips I had just put up there to, you know, wherever I had them. Here, I just kind of placed them up there to keep things closed. But of course, you can put them anywhere you want. Let's see that one. I was trying to place them at different places. There we go. So that is the Ephemera Folio holder type journal thing I did. I hope you like it. Thanks so much for watching. I'm going to place the link at the bottom, of course. Once I get this in my Etsy shop, you'll be able to go to it, and I don't even know what I'm thing to sell it for, you know. So anyway, I'll put that link and you can go check it out at your convenience. And thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll be back on again soon to do other videos. Have a great night.